Good morning. It's 6:45
in the morning.
and it's raining outside. I'm doing my laundry and then I have to get ready for school and then be at school with you guys. But before we do that, we are going to do the video. I'm going to start my day with coffee. Cheers. Three types of landscapes. We have first the coastal landscapes. Does that look familiar to you? Wow, if you remember, I did a presentation before Semana Santa. We learned about the cliffs of Moher in Ireland. So this is an example of a coastal landscape. And then this is Thor's Well. You can see this Thor's Well. It's just a giant hole. And when the ocean has a lot of waves, the tides cause the water to spurt up super high into the air. Thor's Well is located where I live. Look how beautiful it is. Wow. I encourage you guys to go to Oregon, not just New York or California or Florida, okay? You should go to Oregon to see all these natural beauties. You have the mountain landscapes. For example, the Sierra Nevada and the
Image I found on Google.
I don't know where it is. And then you have the flat landscapes. Flat. I don't even know where these photos are from. Just a refresher, the three types of landscapes. We have the coastal landscapes, the mountain landscapes, and the flat landscapes. All these look very different because every landscape comes with many different
landforms.
So when I say coastal landscapes, we are talking about the area of a country that's located right by an ocean. So it borders an ocean, so that's why it's called a coast. So as you can see in the United States, the area in colors, those are coasts, because they're right next to the Atlantic Ocean, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Pacific Ocean. And then you could see in Spain that you border the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea. So the colorful areas that you see on the map of Spain, those are the coasts. So there are many different types of coastal landforms on the coastal landscapes. So look at this drawing. The first one, number one. What type of landform do you think this is? It's a little bit difficult to see on this. It's called a cape. Not the cape like what witches wear. Cape is when you have land and then it extends. It just protrudes out into the ocean or water. So as you can see, that cape, it looks like an arm that is just like into the ocean. Number two, what do you think that is? Again, a little bit difficult to see, I'll tell you. Two is called the Gulf.
Oh.
Gulf, not golf. Gulf. The Gulf is when you have like a body of water that reaches land and the land kind of surrounds itself around the water. So the Gulf of Mexico is really easy to see. Okay, number three, what do you think it is? It's easy. It's called a beach with the sand. Beach. You like to go to the beach, no? Number four. This is called a port. This is where all the boats go. They go to the port. Number five. Five is called an island. A piece of land that is completely surrounded by water. So number six. Six is called an archipelago.
Archipelago.
There's always one word I cannot say.
Archipelago.
What do you prefer?
Archipelago.
Or
Archipelago.
I'll just do my cringy American accent.
Archipelago.
Archipelago.
Back to the presentation.
So number six is an
archipelago.
I'll explain the difference between 5 and 6. 5 and 6. The difference between an island and an archipelago is that an island is just one piece of land completely surrounded by water. But an archipelago is when you have different islands together, like a cluster surrounded by water. So you have the Canary Islands, for example. You also have Hawaii. So an island is one, Archipelago is multiple. Now we have another landform which is called a peninsula. So a peninsula is when you have a large piece of land that extends into water, and it is surrounded by water on three sides. So for example, an example of a peninsula is Spain and Portugal. When they're together, it's just a big piece of land, okay? So pretend that you just see land. Spain and Portugal together makes up an Iberian Peninsula. So on this Iberian Peninsula, there are multiple different landforms. You have the pink, which is the plateaus. The green are gulfs. So you have the Gulf of Valencia, the Cape, as you can see, the little things that kind of protrude out. You have a lot of archipelagos, the Canary Islands and the Balearic Islands. The blue, obviously, the rivers, and then the brown are the mountains. We just talked about landscapes and landforms that are natural. Then you have a lot of landscapes that were shaped by humans, because humans have a really big impact on the land that we use. Humans can change some landscapes for either the worse, so it could hurt the environment, or we could try to change landscapes to protect the plants and animals. What you see here, there are some, natural landscapes in the mountains, in the hills and the trees, but then you can see that there's some agriculture going on. There's some houses and farms. You could see the tractors, the marks that they leave on the grass. This is called a rural landscape. If you live in a rural area, you're far away from the city and it's just a lot of nature around you. On the other hand, you have a place like New York City where all you see are just tall buildings, a ton of cars, a lot of roads, streets. There's a lot of human-made landscapes here. This is called an urban landscape. So Madrid is an urban landscape, for example, just like New York City. Humans need to protect the environment. As humans build landscapes, they are also hurting the environment. This contributes to global warming and climate change. It hurts the ecosystem. It affects the animal populations that already inhabit the area. So while we end up destroying the planet, we need to try to take actions to protect the planet. So if you've seen these images before, it's about recycling, reducing, and reusing. So the trash that we don't need anymore, it's important to separate the trash. So you have a lot of these colored trash bins, green, yellow, blue, red, gray, brown I've seen. And when you separate your trash, you are actually helping the environment and the ecosystem instead of just completely wasting the trash. There you go. That's what you have about landscapes. You have the natural-made landscapes, and natural landscapes include so many natural landforms that we have seen. And then you have the human-made landscapes, like the rural landscapes for a lot of agriculture, or just like living in the rural areas. And then you have the urban landscapes where it's a city life and a lot of buildings and cars and streets, all that.